Here we will see character string data types in SQL. Character string data types have contained a different types of character data types. Those are char, varchar max and text. First we will see char data type. The char data type is a fixed length data type. It can store characters, numbers and special characters in a string up to 8000 bytes in size. Char data types are best used for storing data that is of a consistent length. For example, state code, single character gender code, phone numbers, postal codes, etc. A char column would not be good choice for storing data where the length varies greatly. Columns storing things like addresses or memo fields would not be suitable for a char column data type. When a char column is populated with strings shorter than the length of the column, spaces will be padded to the right. The number of spaces padded is based on the size of the column, less the length of the characters being stored. Because char columns are fully populated by adding spaces when needed, each column uses the same amount of disk space or memory. Trailing spaces also make it challenge when searching is done using char columns. For example, suppose we have declared a variable with char 50, then it will allocate a memory for 50 characters to hold 50 characters of data. In case if we insert only 10 characters of a string, then only 10 characters of memory will be used and remaining 40 characters of memory will be wasted. The range for char data type is 0 to 8000 chars and it uses memory of n bytes. Next is varchar data type. Varchar columns, as the name implies, store variable length data. They can store characters, numbers and special characters just like a char column and can support strings up to 8000 bytes in size. A variable length column only takes up the space it needs to store a string of characters, with no spaces added to pad out the column. For this reason, varchar columns are great for storing strings that vary greatly in size. To support variable length columns, the length of the data needs to be stored along with the data. However, when you consider they only use the space they need, the savings in the disk space alone might offset the performance cost of using a varchar column. It will allocate the memory based on the number of characters inserted. For example, suppose we have declared a variable with varchar 50, then it will allocate a memory of 0 characters at the time of declaration. Now if we insert only 10 characters of a string, then it will allocate memory for only 10 characters. The range for varchar data type is 0 to 8000 chars and it uses memory of n bytes plus 2. The difference between char and varchar is char data type is used to store string of fixed size, whereas varchar is used to store strings of variable length. Char stands for character and varchar stands for variable character. Storage size of char data type is equal to n bytes, that is set length, and the storage size of varchar data type is equal to the actual length of the entered string in byte. Char uses a fixed amount of storage based on the size of the column, and varchar uses varying amount of storage space based on the size of the string stored. Char takes up to 1 to 4 bytes for each character based on the collection setting. Varchar takes up to 1 to 4 bytes for each character based on the collection and requires 1 or more bytes to store the length of the data. Char gives better performance. Varchar gives slightly poor performance because length has to be accounted for it. In char, pad spaces to the right when storing string is less than the fixed size length, and in varchar, no padding is necessary because it is variable in size. Next is varchar max. The varchar max data type is similar to the varchar data type in that it supports variable length character data. Varchar max is different from varchar because it supports character strings up to 2 GB. You should consider using varchar max only when each string stored in this data type varies considerably in length and a value might exceed 8000 bytes in size. The range for varchar max is 2 raised to 31 characters. The maximum storage size is 2 GB and it requires memory of n bytes plus 2. Next is text. The text data type stores variable length non-Unicode data. It can store variable width character strings and its maximum size is 2 GB. The storage size is 4 bytes plus the number of characters being stored. We can use this data type to store any text data. However, char and varchar are often preferred as they allow for greater customization of the data type. Text has been deprecated and will be removed in some future release of SQL Server. So it is better to use varchar max instead of text.